Hi everyone, it's Rax. I want to talk to you today about kind of the future of Diablo 4 because Blizzard said they're going to release a mega 13-page patch with a ton of balance changes and other things. And then, of course, is going to come Season 1. I want to talk to you guys about what I think is the most important thing for Blizzard to have in their minds that I hope that they're looking at in order to help the game going forward. So, the first thing that I want to talk about is the progression of how the chat has seemed in my stream. I stream every day, and what I've been hearing from people that are playing the game. When I first started Diablo 4 for the first week, most of the conversations were around, Rax, what do you think about the game? I'm just starting out, but I'm having a really, really good first impression because I really like the campaign. I like building through my character. Okay, I got my ultimate. I got my first Paragon point. I got my mount. I'm having a lot of fun, man. This game is great. What do you think? I think in general, the first impression of the game was very positive for a lot of people. And that's, you only get one chance to make a first impression. And that's, if Blizzard could take anything, that's where they would want to win. So they did a good job there. And the servers weren't a catastrophe. You could log in and play. That's another big win. A few weeks later, the conversation changed to, Rax, how do I level to 100? What's the fastest way I can level? How do I finish off my glyphs? How do I finish this last Paragon board? How do I do the endgame activities? Which you see on the screen here, as you might guess, I'm going to talk about them in a second. They're wondering kind of what are the endgame steps to the game. And then we come to today, to a couple weeks later, essentially 1 month in, and usually the questions I get are, Rax, how do you keep playing this game? What is there to do, Rax? What should I do? Should I make an alt? Should I quit until Season 1? I'm getting that sentiment a lot from a lot of people. That's what I want to talk about today, that I hope is addressed, if not in the mega patch, if not in Season 1 sometime very soon. So the main thing I want to talk about is the endgame activities. I want to talk about them individually and then summarize it with kind of my high-level thought here that I hope Blizzard is thinking about. Let's start with Helltide. On a 1 to 10 scale, I'd give Helltide maybe like, I don't know, a 9.5 out of 10. I think Helltide is literally the embodiment of what Blizzard wants an endgame activity to be. So let's think about Helltide for a second. Helltide corrupts a couple of zones. You zone in, and you want to know what the optimal play is? To do literally everything. To kill all the monsters, to pick the corrupted ore veins and the flowers, to do all of the events, kill the little elites, kill the bosses. They drop very valuable things like Forgotten Souls. You're supposed to open all the chests, or at least the mystery chests, and there's some tribal knowledge with how the chests move and learning the mechanics and learning how to optimize it in your route. This is essentially, at the core, what makes an ARPG great. You go to a zone, and everything that Blizzard designed in that zone is worth doing, and it's valuable, and it's fun to kind of optimize your route. I think this is the definition of what an endgame activity should be, and I think they've done very, very well with Helltide. For the Pinnacle bosses, I'd probably give them a 7, and I need to make a different video on this. Blizzard actually got probably the most important things right on Pinnacle bosses. The first thing that they got right is it's very difficult. If you actually do Lilith's mechanics, she is not an easy fight for anybody. Very challenging. That's exactly what a Pinnacle boss should be. Another thing that they got right is there's a mount and a title that you can only get from killing her. I understand that the elite players who attempt these Pinnacle bosses are not a majority of players. I get it. A lot of people don't give a French toast about Pinnacle bosses, but you have to give some rewards for the people that play that kind of endgame content. Because those are the most important things, I would give it 7 out of 10. But there are some things that I really think Blizzard should look at. For example, first of all, there's just some bug mechanics with her, like the hitboxes of the waves, and some of her patterns she throws in like a split second, which I think is a bug, and other things that I'm going to address later. Another major problem with the Pinnacle bosses is people are able to cheese them and skip all of her mechanics. And because of this, people are able to sell runs, which should never happen. You should never be able to sell a run. So what is the solution? Maybe they make it only solo, or they have it so you can only chunk a certain percentage of her health, and then it actually just stops calculating the damage until you have to actually do her mechanics, or they stop you from rezzing group play. there's all these things that are preventing the Pinnacle boss from actually being a Pinnacle boss. And we can't expect Blizzard to balance every single build, every single moment, every time there's a new Pinnacle boss out. So there's some improvements here. But I don't think many people are playing just to power up to fight the Pinnacle bosses anyway. Nightmare dungeons, I think, are a pretty big problem. And this is the main one that they're supposed to do. And I don't know, I would give it maybe a 4 out of 10. And this is not a good rating for their kind of like featured endgame system. All right, so I'll be completely honest with you. It's hard for me to pinpoint exactly this exact moment why Nightmare Dungeons just don't really seem to work. It might be a culmination of a bunch of little different things, which some of them, in Blizzard's defense, they are already addressing. So this number is definitely going to come up from like a 4 or something very soon. But for Nightmare Dungeons, let's compare them mentally for a second to 3 different games. Let's compare it to PoE, let's compare it to Diablo 3, and let's compare it to World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft is not the same game. World of Warcraft's an MMO. This is an ARPG. I get it. They're different. But let's just compare it anyway for fun. We can also compare it to Lost Ark as well. So, Path of Exile, you have the map system. And the map system, you plug a map, you're in there instantly. You have this whole atlas tree and this crazy stuff, and you level up all the way to level 16, and then that summons like, then from there you get like certain drops, and you go for Pinnacle bosses, and then you upgrade your maps. I mean, it's a crazy thing that they've invested a lot of time into. PoE is a very fast-paced thing. These characters can absolutely zoom through the content. There's a loot filter, so you don't have to look at every single little thing. You can filter out the stuff that you don't want. And in general, the map system is, for the most part, a very enjoyable endgame experience. Okay, and so then we go to Diablo 3. Diablo 3, in general, for the most part of the game, was probably not considered the best game out there, because it was essentially just the Greater Rift game mode that had to carry the entire game for its entire lifespan. And Greater Rifts weren't really iterated on at all. The Greater Rift at the very beginning of Diablo 3 was almost the same as the Greater Rift at the end. The only difference is the power level of the builds changed, and you didn't have to farm for keystones, which was a different game mode, which didn't work out, and bounties were almost universally hated. The challenge rifts didn't work. The game is essentially carried by Greater Rifts. But Greater Rifts did have somewhat of an allure, somewhat of a magic to it, where the replayability of it was very high, similar to PoE maps. You plug it, you're in it instantly. You can usually fly through it very quickly. All the rewards were at the end. There was no looting in the middle of it, and it worked very well. So then we look at, let's say, Lost Ark. Lost Ark has got the big raids, which are very exciting. They're much more slow-paced. They're like, wow. But I think in WoW and in Lost Ark, at least at certain periods of the game, you can only do it like once a week, but the rewards were huge, and you really needed to do it. Just these massive rewards for very high difficulty, kind of like the Pinnacle bosses. And then Lost Ark has Chaos Dungeons and the other little things that you do all the time. The Una's tasks, is that what they were called? Can't remember. Played it for a long time. The tasks that you would do. And the Chaos Dungeons, once again, you open them, you go through them quickly, you kill a bunch of monsters and some different mechanics. Sometimes a really rare portal would spawn. You go in there, kind of like in PoE, you get like, you're exploring an area and you get what are they called? The Val Ruins. I don't know how valuable they are in PoE. Some people told me just to skip them. I don't really know. I'm not a PoE expert, but some interesting things happened. Okay, now I look at Diablo 4, and I don't think it's just a function of we need speed and we need mindlessness, and that's what we want, Blizzard, because we're all just a bunch of, mindless chickens. That's not exactly what I think. But a lot of the things that Blizzard has added to add flavor to the Nightmare Dungeons, I'm not really sure that it's done that. At least it doesn't feel like that to me, and it doesn't really feel like that to other people. First of all, some of the mods that they have they're pretty devastating. For example, resource burn. Resource burn. One time I plugged a key, I walked in, and there were some quill fiends in front of me that shoot those barbs kind of quickly. It burned my resources so badly, I couldn't attack. I couldn't throw a single core skill. I just literally left. I'm like, I actually can't even play this key. If that's the design that Blizzard is going for, well, I guess you hit the nail on the head, but that one is devastating. If you don't have permanent unstoppable, if you're not a druid or a barb, cold enchanted is brutal. It's insane how much you can get chain CC'd with one series of unfortunate events with that. And some other things. Yes, of course, the entire purpose of the affixes is to make it more difficult. But I would argue there are some of them that make it more difficult without making it insanely annoying, like the Pikachu thing with the Thunderbolt. I call it Pikachuing. The whole point of that is you run forward 10 steps, and then you have to step back 1 into the bubble. You run forward 10, you step back 1. I don't understand where that was supposed to align in the game philosophy. It's not fun to do that, but again, the purpose of an affix is to create a different challenge, but that's not challenging either. You just take a step back into the bubble. It just kind of feels annoying, like a waste of time. A better affix would be something like, I don't know, the red spinny lasers, like the arcane beams. If they fill the whole room everywhere, you have a moment to think, okay, I got to strategically step here or there, got to watch out for that. Or something like, I don't know, Avenger, where they get stronger. You kill some of their friends, they get really big and strong, and they're mad. It's like, okay, I got like 4 elites. I made them really mad. I better play defensively right now, or I'm going to die. That, I think, is much more like something they were going for than the chain CCing, I can't throw any skills, or Pikachuing. I would like them to look at some of the affixes and maybe retune some of them a little bit. This is just my opinion. Another thing that I think absolutely does not work, where it works in a game like Lost Ark, is some of the events. Most of the events that I see in there are just not worth doing. They just aren't. They're just not rewarding. Whereas in Lost Ark, when I get like the red portal and you go in the red portal in a chaos dungeon, I mean, that's literally like Christmas, right? That's the gold portal, the red portal. One thing that I think does work that they've added into Nightmare Dungeons is things like the Butcher. He comes and attacks you. He tries to kill you. Ha, it's the Butcher. If you kill him, I think you get a guaranteed legendary, and he usually drops pretty good loot, usually worth your time. Now, that's something. Okay, so that's something that works for me. I think the loot is kind of a catastrophe. In Diablo 3, where all the loot dropped at the end, that was very nice. You could focus on your gameplay, then it gives you all the loot at the end. But there are so many things that I do not understand about World Tier 4 itemization, especially in a game that doesn't have a loot filter. I don't understand why it ever drops blue items. I don't get it. I honestly don't get why in higher level Nightmare Dungeons, sacred items drop at all. Are we supposed to vendor them for gold? Is that why you're dropping them? Because I'm sure as hell never going to wear them. And another thing about it is, you really have to look at the yellows. You're looking for perfect stats on each item. So literally, when I have an inventory full of stuff, if I'm looking for the BIS items, I don't know a better way than to just mouse over it. 1, no. Oh, that has fortified gen. I don't want the, oh no, I can't reroll it. No, I mean, it takes forever. It takes forever if you're actually looking for the BIS gear. I don't know how to do it faster than that. There is no loot filter. There's so much loot dropping. If you pick up every yellow in a Nightmare Dungeon, your inventory will be full. And you'll get some blues too, which are completely useless. I just don't get it. So I think the loot can be improved. The glyphs. The glyphs are fine. You level them at 15, you get an expanded radius. They're better. Then you level them to 21, and that does absolutely nothing for you. So that's the end of that. And that certainly will not take you to level 100 to do that. And because of things like that, unless your glyphs are hitting level 15, when you level up kind of in the end game from 80 to 100, you really don't feel any stronger. Unless you hit that one unique that you absolutely need, or I don't know, you get some kind of massive upgrade, or I don't know, again, a glyph at 15, you just don't get any stronger. And the monsters level up with you. In Nightmare Dungeons, the monsters can level up to like 50 levels beyond you. That's not a good feeling. In the end game, you're supposed to feel like when you finally start to min-max your character, you're supposed to start to feel like a god. I've never felt that way ever, and I have some godly characters. I have several of them. I have 3 god tier characters, but they don't really feel like gods. So, okay, I've been rambling long enough. Like I said, Blizzard is already going to fix part of this. Part of the problem is you have to get in there and run to the dungeon. What a nightmare. Too much of a good thing is a bad thing. So Blizzard, it feels like they want to keep doubling down over and over and over and over on, we have a big open world, guys. Guys, we have a big open world. You have a mount ride around everywhere. We do it for Helltide. We ride to the world bosses. We ride around when we're going to do the Tree of Whispers. We ride around, and we rode around on the campaign. We rode around enough, discovering the whole world, getting all the altars. We don't also have to ride around for Nightmare Dungeons. If we want to do Nightmare Dungeons, let us do Nightmare Dungeons. They've fixed this. They're going to let us port into the Nightmare Dungeon when you plug the sigil. Thank you. Let us do Nightmare Dungeons if we want to. Okay, so and then one more thing. Another thing that I don't understand is in Nightmare Dungeons and in regular dungeons, they have these connecting gateway, whatever you want to call them, events, right? Those events pay you no experience and no loot. I don't know why. I guess it's to prevent some kind of exploiting to infinitely do them or something. But let me give you an example. You know the one where it says, stay alive for 30 seconds? Do you know what the optimal gameplay is when you're stuck in that event? What you should do is use your generator to get the full resource and don't spend 1 cooldown. That way, when you get out of the event, you have full resources and you have all your cooldowns to delete the end of the dungeon. That's the optimal play. You should not kill 1 monster. Run around, throw your generator, don't spend 1 cooldown. It literally makes no sense. So that's another thing. I could probably ramble on this forever, but that would be something I would like Blizzard to look at to fix. At the end of the day, I found PoE mapping to be fun. I found Diablo 3 Greater Rifts, especially for speed farming more so than the endless endgame fishing, to be fun. I find Chaos Dungeons fun, and the raids in Lost Ark. I find the raids and dungeons, Mythic Dungeons, fun in WoW. Nightmare Dungeons are gotta be, out of all the games, my least favorite thing to do. Part of it is, unfortunately to say, the objectives. Carry this orb from here to this pedestal. Free 6 prisoners. I get it. You want to make it more mindless than nothing. It's not the end of the world, but it certainly doesn't make it more fun for me. It just doesn't. Anyway, that was a lot. The super uniques. I would give this a much higher rating than most people. I'd give it, because it's really what I wanted, I got to give it like at least an 8 out of 10. Okay, I'll give it an 8. Because what I wanted was super god tier items that are BIS that are insanely rare. I mean, that's exactly what they gave us, right? With things like Shaco and the Grandfather. There it is. That's exactly what I asked for. I got to give it a high rating. I think with the way that they currently have it, which I would have rather them tune it way rarer than everyone has one. I don't think anyone's going to. We remove them from the planners on Maxroll because they're so rare, you are never going to have one. So, love the execution, love the idea. I would like to see more of these in the future. We need to make the drop rate at least possible to get them. Not easy to get them, very, very hard to get them, but they're borderline impossible right now. Leveling alts, again, this is another endgame activity, making a second character. I'd call it an endgame activity. The quality of life here is, I don't know, it's simultaneously really bad and simultaneously helps you a little bit. Again, they're working on this a little bit, Maybe I'll give it like a 6 out of 10. You just really get no help when you're making an alt. It really is starting completely over. You do have your renown, which helps you. So you're going to have some skill points. You will have some paragon points if you got that far, and you will have some potion charges. That is better than nothing, but there's almost no way to help your alt other than having the Codex of Power filled out, and the Codex of Power is not super crazy for any class or any build. Minimum level legendary powers help with some builds like Bone Spear or Twisting Blades, but it doesn't help all of them, and that's for darn sure. Hoda is another pretty good one as well. People say when I level up an alt, I don't have the map, I don't have the waypoints, none of my glyphs transfer over. You don't even get the glyphs. Even if you leveled a sorcerer, made an ice sorcerer, and you make a fire sorcerer, you don't even get the glyphs then. You got to re-level them all anyway. That's a bit brutal. Even within the same class, you got to re-level the glyphs. I find that pretty brutal. They're doing some things to fix that. I think they're going to give us the full map. That's something. They're only going to give us the waypoints for the major cities. But I guess you can see the map. I guess that's something. Something to consider for Blizzard, because a lot of people consider this their main endgame activity, and the quality of life is a bit low here. And then the endgame progression. This is another problem. How do you get stronger past level 80? How do you get stronger? Well, you get your glyph to 15 to 21, sure, but not really. You find that one unique you were missing if your build needs it. You get min-max the absolute perfect gear, but really, I have 5 levels. I have a level 100, a level 100, I have a 100 barb, 100 rogue, a 90 druid, a 70 necro, and a 50 sorcerer right now. And every single character that I had by about level 75, the yellows that they had on that I turned into legendaries were already at least 75% best in slot. So how exactly do you progress in this major grind from 80 to 100? How do you actually feel stronger? I don't know. Maybe Blizzard already has things like this planned out, which will keep people more exciting in like kind of the long term. I understand casuals don't even reach level 80. I get it. I get the whole dynamic. I understand. I know where the demographics are. But for the very, very dedicated fans of your game, what exactly are we going to do? I'm sure they have a lot of things planned. They're already working on next expansions. Maybe they're going to add new things. But this is what I'm looking for in the mega patch in the Season 1, which was the whole point of this video. I would like them to look at the end game and make it more fun. Make it more fun to log in and play every day. Make me feel like, not in Diablo 3, not with infinite paragon plus 5 main stat every day, but I would like a way to somewhat feel like I am getting stronger. And once I reach a point, I wouldn't say not too far into the game, I really don't feel like that anymore. I hope that there's fun and a little bit more focus on endgame progression with their patches and with their season ideas coming up. There's a couple of things they could clean up here in all of the different activities, but I would say look at Helltide. I would say Helltide is probably the best thing that Diablo 4 has released so far. You go to the zone, and everything that they put in it, you do. You do the event, you do the bosses, do the leads, do the flowers, you do the rocks, and then you figure out where do the mystery chests, how do they move, where they spawn, this, that, okay, this guy's going this way, I'm going to go this way, let's go look. That's pretty good design, in my opinion. And if this is going to be your pinnacle content, I think this could use the most beneficial changes, and I think it can get there. I think it can get there. It doesn't have to be mindless. It doesn't have to be stupid. It doesn't have to be just slay everything. More things like the Butcher, a special portal that opens the cow level or something. Slightly less annoying tasks. Do I really have to free 6 prisoners? Can I click the prisoners faster? Can the prisoners automatically free themselves if I just cut their shackles off? Or if I kill all the monsters around a prisoner, can it just be freed or something? Resource burn. What the hell is that? Cold enchanted. I better bring 20 unstoppables or you're dead. Anyway. All right. That's what I'm hoping for the patch. I actually do have faith in Blizzard. Blizzard knows what skills nobody is using. They've got the telematics. They know exactly what's the most powerful stuff. They've been nerfing Barb every day. Your daily dose of nerf Barb, as we joke about in my stream. They know. I have, maybe this is copium, but I have a pretty good feeling they're going to balance that pretty well. Let's look at the end game. Let's make it more fun, and let's make the progression feel a little better. That's what I'm looking for you, Blizzard. I hope you have that in your mind. What do you guys think? Am I just a stupid idiot and I got no idea what I'm talking about? Or is this aligned with what you're thinking and feeling? Thank you.